over this video, I'm going to be walking you through CrewAI, which is effectively a framework for AI agents. Now, what are AI agents? AI agents are basically pieces of code executing certain tasks. And I'm going to be explaining you everything you need to know about this concept. And over this video itself, it's more like a beginner's guide to not knowing anything about AI agents or CrewAI in general, to getting to a point where you understand what are these agents, and we'll actually build one agent ourselves. So the easiest example of an AI agent, but more code related example, is AutoGPT. What AutoGPT effectively did is it took a prompt, it did a bunch of things, and it gave out the final output. Now CrewAI is similar, but it's way more systematic and focused because it breaks down and gives you the independence to maintain or define the tasks you want the model to do. So a non-code or a good example of a use case that an AI agent would solve would be on Perplexity. So Perplexity has this feature called library, which effectively kind of takes things like, in this case, a YouTube video summarizer, which will take the link to a YouTube video and it will summarize the YouTube video for you. So I'll just put the link to the YouTube video, and effectively it will go to that video, and it's going to summarize what is in the video itself. You can see it also gives me the upload date for the video and a bunch of these details with respect to what we are covering in the video itself. So this is, I think I uploaded this a couple of days back. Now we're going to be building a similar tool here, just that we will not be using Perplexity. We'll be running it locally using our own OpenAI API key. So if you go to CrewAI documentation, you'll be able to find everything you need to know about what it is. Anyways, just click on the documentation to know what the main concepts are, right? So there are agents, tasks, tools, processes, and crews. So in order to kind of simplify the whole thing, I kind of created this very basic illustration of how agents look. So workflow or processes are effectively the department, right? So a marketing department is the process or a workflow. So a marketing department will do a bunch of things, for example, growth, email marketing, and so on and so forth. So the workflow here becomes email marketing, workflow here becomes, say, newsletter growth, YouTube marketing, and so on and so forth. Then agents inside these workflows. So if you look at this, first comes the process, then comes the agent, which is effectively like a marketing manager. So you look at this, right? So there are multiple agents. They all have different roles. So there's a marketing manager, there is an SEO manager, and so on and so forth. These agents or groups work together to achieve certain processes or workflows. Right now, this a group of these agents is called crew. Right, so you can see there is the concept of crew. Effectively, now you look at the whole AI agents concept. The workflow, which is the marketing department, the marketing manager, which is the agent. Now the agent will have something called skills, right? So this could be, content writing, keyword research, and so on and so forth. In AI agent terms, it's called task. So the agent will do task 1, the agent will do task 2, the agent will do task 3, and some of these agents can have, tasks that the other agents also have. But again, I'll explain you a bit more in detail once we go in. But think of it now as different skills a marketing manager would have. And then finally, the tools. So a task will require you to use certain tools, and a task can require more than one tools for you to work on. This is effectively the core concept of what CrewAI is. So there are agents, tasks, tools, processes, and crews. You kind of make all of this work together in order to mimic an employee or mimic a workflow or a department. So if you want to, on a daily basis, post a newsletter, you would need someone who would research the newsletter, you would need someone who would summarize the newsletter, and you would need someone who would send the newsletter. So the workflow for a newsletter would consist of 3 agents. These 3 agents will have research tasks, summarizing tasks, identifying the important bits task, and then sending task, which will require you to have access to multiple platforms, and so on and so forth. And that's effectively what the whole concept of CrewAI is. And we're going to be setting it up locally ourselves. I'll build this sort of YouTube video summarizer with you, so you know how to build agents yourself. Now, while this is code written, note this is super simple to understand. This is not complex at all. Once you understand what means what, it is easily scalable. And they also have Discord in case you have questions. If you've never written a single line of code, no need to worry. You just need to install two things. The first one is Python. You will need Python in order to run the code, and then you need Visual Studio Code, which is effectively where you will write your code. So once you install both of these things, it will become way more simpler. So go to Python and download the latest version, and then go to Visual Studio Code and download the latest version for you. Once you download the version, you can see we are in the CrewAI documentation here. Let's click on getting started, and I'm going to show you what this sample here means. This sample will help us get started initially, and then post, once our sample is, we understand how the sample works, what we'll go ahead and do is create our own YouTube based bot that I just mentioned. So in order to make this work, once you install Visual Studio, just open it. I'm going to walk you through what to do next. Once you open Visual Studio, just click on file and then click on open folder, and then create a new folder and then click on open for that folder. So I already have a file open there. I'm just opening a new file for you. Once you open the new folder here, just close this, and this is your workspace. Now there are a bunch of commands that you need to run in order to keep your code clean and scalable. So I'm going to be explaining what each of those commands mean as well. So don't worry, if you've not seen something like this before, it's not going to be very complicated. The first thing, and these are all the commands by the way you will need in order to run this. In case we need anything else, we will see that through the tutorial as well, but for now these are the commands we'll need. So in order to run these commands, you need to have a terminal here, and for that you need to click the terminal on top and then start the terminal. You'll see something like this, and what we will effectively now do is create a virtual environment. The reason why we create virtual environment is to ensure that whatever we install while we are running CrewAI locally does not get installed locally across your MacBook or your PC or Windows PC per se. The reason why we do that is because when you stop working on CrewAI or any program that you're working on, if you just delete the CrewAI folder, everything that it has installed, it will delete. So it's like a virtual environment. Otherwise, if you don't create a virtual environment, it will install it globally and then you will struggle to remove it from your computer later on. If you don't know how Python works, this is the safest way to do it. Right, so we will run this command python 3 -m venv CrewAI. Once you click enter, you will see there is a new folder that is created here on the left. Effectively now this has created a small mimic of your workspace where whatever you installed in this now is going to be only installed in this virtual environment. The second thing you need to do is now whatever you've created, you need to activate it. So you can see crew bin, and then this is the code to activate this virtual command. Now you put the command here and you can see that we are inside the virtual environment that we created. You can see CrewAI here. And by the way, once you're done using virtual environment, all you need to do is type deactivate, which will deactivate and now run globally. If you want to focus again on only this project, then you need to activate it again. If you want to create another instance, meaning if you're running two pieces of code at the same point of time, then you click on plus. This will start a new terminal, and then you can activate the environment here as well. This will ensure that you stay on the same environment and that you don't install anything globally. I'll clear the previous command so it's clean for you here. You can see it's the first bit of what we need to do is ready, and now we'll start installing the packages. Now, what are packages? When you install Python, it will come with some functions. These functions, think of these functions as the normal set of functions like addition, subtraction, and so on and so forth for a calculator, obviously. Now, if you want to add more things in a calculator, right? So meaning you want the calculator to run the code, obviously whatever you got from the developer is not going to solve it. So you need to add additional things in order to run new things in your calculator or whatever app you're running locally, right? So similarly in Python, when you want to run new things by using Python, you need to install packages for those things. And in our scenario, what we need to run is CrewAI. This should be double equal to, by the way. We need to install CrewAI before we can run it locally. So our first command is pip install CrewAI is equal to 0. 14.0. Now you can always only do something like this, but this will install the latest version of CrewAI. What we want is a very specific version of CrewAI, which was the older version, because the guide for the newer version is not updated yet. So we're going to be using this specific version for the installation. You press enter, this will download and install a bunch of things. Like I mentioned, whatever comes with Python will not be sufficient to run CrewAI. So we need to specifically download everything that we need to in order to run CrewAI itself. And this command will help you automatically download all of those things. So it will take a couple of seconds, by the way, in order to download it. And in the meantime, let me share the main screen to show you what happens next. So once you install CrewAI, you can see it's obviously using the latest version, but we are not using that. So the second command that you see here, it's DuckDuckGo search. You don't need this for all scenarios. Now the example that you see here on the screen specifically kind of talks about an example that requires this library, which is why we will have to install this. So you copy this, you go back to your terminal, and then you paste this here. Note again, you don't need to install this in all scenarios. Specifically for this project, we will also need this library. The next thing you have to do, and this is important, is that you press Command Shift P, and I think it's Control Shift P on Windows, and you click on Select Interpreter. Now you need to ensure that you are inside the correct workspace where you've created the virtual environment. So you can see this CrewAI is the virtual environment we are working on. So you need to choose this environment. Every time you run the program, it's going to refer to this environment before it runs it. So again, it may sound a bit technical, but it's not. It's straightforward. Effectively, this means whatever environment I created here is where I want to run this. Meaning whatever I'm installing is available inside this environment. So it will not look at your entire computer. Rather, it will only look at this small project that you've created inside the environment. The next thing you should do is create a Python file, crew.python. Now, basically anything, if you add .py, that naturally means this is a Python file. And once you do this, all your basic setup is done. And now all is left is to kind of either start writing code or paste whatever example we've seen on the CrewAI sample that we've seen, right? So let me go back to the CrewAI sample here, and you can see there is this step-by-step guide. So the step 1 is to assemble your agents, and I'll explain what each of these means. Step 2 is to define the tasks for those agents. Step 3 is to form the crew, and step 4 is to kick it off. So let's start by assembling our agents. Quickly click on copy to clipboard, go back to your code environment, and paste it here. Now everything you need for the sample is already, you already have it here. I'll just explain what each of these means. Just go ahead and paste your OpenAI API key here, because you will need in order to run this project. Now by default this will run GPT-4, and over this project itself I'm going to keep it very simple, and I am going to only work on GPT-4. But in the future we will also show you, or I will also show you, how you can connect with GPT 3.5 or open source models if you need to. So if you're interested in more videos on CrewAI, definitely let me know. As for the setup, we will get the environment key, the OpenAI API key here, and then we are importing CrewAI. So you notice that we installed pip install CrewAI at the start. Now we are getting things that we need from that package. So inside CrewAI, there is a package called, or a library or a function called agent. Now the agent, like I already mentioned, it's more like a marketing manager who will have certain skills or tasks that he will execute. Then we use this tool in order to search the internet. So for this specific project, what we will do is we will take AI in healthcare topic. We will look up using DuckDuckGo search, which is a search engine per se, and then we will summarize it for you. So in this scenario, the topic is AI in healthcare, and again the topic is like a placeholder that you can use here. So effectively, when I say uncover groundbreaking technologies in the topic, now what is topic? AI in healthcare. You can change this to anything and it will automatically dynamically change here as well. So you can say AI in gaming. The next time the agent runs this, it will look at it as uncover groundbreaking technologies in AI in gaming. So this is like a variable in technical terms, effectively, which can continue to change value depending on the context or what the user wants to find. Now there are two agents that are available in this sample. The first one is a researcher, second one is the writer. What will the researcher do? So researcher will look for the data. You can see uncover groundbreaking technologies in AI in healthcare is the goal of this researcher. And then the role of this researcher is that this guy is like a senior researcher. So now you're thinking of each of these roles as employees, right? And these guys will work as a crew or a team in order to achieve certain tasks. You can also give them backstories to make the output way more relevant or better. Verbose is basically, it will show you what is going on in the output, right? So whatever this guy is doing, you will see here in the terminal. Let me just clear this here. Everything that the researcher guy do, you will be able to see it. If you keep this false, you won't be able to see it. Memory is, in my assumption, I think previous knowledge. It will leverage previous knowledge in order to process the data. Allow delegation. Now this is the main feature of CrewAI. This will basically means that whenever agent wants something from the writer, it can delegate tasks. So for example, it wants to create a summary now, it will tell it to writer. And similarly, if the writer wants to delegate tasks, he will tell the agent to research about it. In this scenario, in example, they've disabled it, but just in case for your own reference. And then there is the tools, which is effectively like I mentioned before. So there is an agent has a task, the tasks will need a tool. In this scenario, an agent can also need a tool. So a researcher will need a tool like search bar, right? For example, if you are a marketing manager, you need a tool like Canva to work. Similarly, you will assign tools to an agent. And this is the writer agent who will then take the whatever this researcher finds, and then he will kind of simplify that complex topic for your user per se. Now note that this API key is already disabled, so even if you try to activate it, it's not going to work. Just FYI. The next thing that we want to configure now are the tasks, and for that we will go back to the example shared by the CrewAI team, right? So this is the first task was to assemble the agents, which we did. The second task is to research or assigning skills to these agents, so what they are good at, right? So we will copy this piece of code and I'll explain you how these connect with the agents as well. Copy this, then go back to CrewAI and then paste it here. You can see we've added two tasks. So there is a research task for the research guy, and then there is the writing task for the writer guy. You can see there is another import here. Generally, it's good to have imports at the top of your code because these are the first things that need to run. So if, for example, if you take this and you remove it, you can see an error is thrown, right? Or if you put it below this, while it is not showing an error here, how the code execution works is sequentially. So if the code is trying to execute this first and you've already, you've kind of declared it at the end, it's not going to look good. So ideally, how to write your imports or whatever things you need in order to run this is like this, right? So from CrewAI import agent, and then task is from the same package. So you don't need to call from CrewAI import task again. Rather, you can just put a comma and call the task here. So, that piece being done, so these are the two agents, and then we will build skills for those agents. So research task, again, this is the function. So you can see if this is like the whole single thing. And then there is the description. So identify the next big trend in AI for healthcare in our scenario. Focus on identifying pros and cons. You can see the benefit of using dynamic or variables, right? You can actually cross-reference this multiple times now. Focus on identifying pros and cons and overall narrative. Your final report should clearly articulate the key points, its market opportunities, and potential risks. A comprehensive 3-paragraph long report on the latest AI trends. So this is the expected output with respect to what you want this skill to return to you. And then max intervals, I think this is the amount of time this skill will be run before the final output is taken. Now the tools that we need, like I said, we will need the search tool because we will be looking at it in real time. Then finally, allow delegation. This would again mean that the writer can delegate to researcher and researcher can delegate to writer. In this scenario, we are putting it as false. So agent effectively means that who does the skill belong to? In our scenario, this belongs to the researcher. So you will reference the agent as researcher. You can obviously close these and you will realize that these are the same things, right? So you can see this is a researcher and then there's the writer. You can open this and you can close this from here. Then we'll create one more skill, which is the write task. Effectively, again, compose an insightful article on AI for healthcare, and then so on and so forth. And then what we finally want as the output is a paragraph article on topic advancement formatted as Markdown. Markdown is again text based language, but it has things like the H2, H3, similar to what you would see in a blog. And then it says that save the output file as out new blog post.md. It's awesome for scenarios where you are using, you want to bulk write blogs. Now in the future you will also be able to integrate these agents with certain APIs. So if you let's say for example, if you write blogs on Wix, then you can use this agent to send your blog to Wix using their API, and then automatically on a daily basis post blogs more regularly. So again, this is the skill for the writer. The agent is writer, and then we'll definitely be using the same tool again. So sync is basically when you send a request and you receive the response, right? So think of it as, for example, if you are a McDonald's store, you go to place the order and you would say, hey, I need a burger. If the guy hands the burger directly to you, that's a sync response. If the guy does not hand the burger directly to you and gives you the bill and tells you to come back later when it's ready, that's called the async response. So effectively, when your order is ready, that's async, and if you get your order immediately, that's sync, right? So again, these are the two tasks, and at this point, I think our crew is ready. So we have the workflow, I think, is the only thing pending now, but we have agents and the researchers. Now let's go back to the web page of CrewAI and get the final thing in, which is the workflow we need, right? So you go back here and it says form the crew now. So we copy this and we come back to our Visual Studio Code. I hope everything is, by the way, clear at this point of time. It's not too hard to understand. I hope so. Now we will need to form a crew. So we have agents, which is agent 1 and agent 2. And then we have task for those agents, which is research task 1 and write task 2. The process is going to be sequential, which is basically process it one after the other, right? So sequential is the flow of the process. There are other processes as well, but I don't know what those are. So I'm going to just keep it as is. Finally, go to the CrewAI webpage again and copy this final command that will run your code. Now you have the crew, now you have your agents, now you have your researchers, tasks or skills. You have everything you need. All you now need to do is to run all of this in your local system. So we go back to our code and you just paste the final piece of code. Let me just close this and then paste it here. This will basically mean that run the crew, right, which will execute all of what you've written so far, and then it will store all the data inside result, and then we will print the result to see what we get finally. Now in order to run this, there are a bunch of ways. You can run it directly via a command, so Python and then name of the file. But if that's too technical for you, there's an option that looks like a play button here. So if you click that, this will start executing the code for you. So you can see I clicked on play and it started running the code in the terminal. So it says Python crewai.py. So again, it's similar to what we could have done when by typing the command, but this did this automatically for you. It's using the tool called DuckDuckGo search, and then it's looking for latest AI trends in healthcare 2022. Should have looked for 2024. I'm assuming it's still kind of looking at the old data per se, but for the sake of example, let's just see what output we get. And then it found certain things. Multiple efforts are underway intentionally to pass laws and guidelines for responsible use of AI. And this, by the way, is done by the researcher. Now, the researcher decides to delegate work to a co-worker who's a writer. So co-worker writer task draft a comprehensive report on the latest AI trends in healthcare. Context is the same thing that the researcher found online, and then it again goes in execution and looks for more data, drawing from real life health scenarios and insights and so on. So now it's looking for more data. While the researcher is looking at data, it's handing over that data to writer. The researcher is going back to work, It's looking for new data, handing over that new data to the writer, and then writer is kind of adding it all of that to its summary. So you remember we mentioned we need like 4 paragraph article. So it's kind of looking at all of those data pointers now. And then, this is what the writer wrote as final answer. So as of 2022, the AI healthcare market is rapidly growing and so on and so forth, which kind of finished the chain. And this is the final answer that the model gave us. And then it's again going into the execution. So I already know I must stop using it. So you can see it knows that it got the 4 paragraph answer for us. And now it's, finally, I think one of the things that it had to do was to save it in a blog post.md. So again, what this is doing is that it's kind of look as an employee, it's looking at the data, it's looking at what is available in the internet, it's passing that over to the writer, and then writer is summarizing it for us. And you can see this is the final file that was generated in the format that we wanted it to. So AI in healthcare, and then as of 2022 and so on and so forth, this is created like an entire summary for us. So let's see if it works on some real-time data. Let's say AI agents 2024. Now this is real-time data, right? And all you need to do once you change the topic now is click on run, and this will do everything that it did for AI in healthcare, but for AI agents 2024 now. And you can see it's looking for latest trends. And then most important business, it's kind of talking about the article that it found. And let's see what we get in the end, right? So we're sure that we'll get something like this. Let me just delete this file to ensure that I don't mess up saving the same set of files. And it's now running the code in the backend. So over the rest of the lecture, what I'll do is I'll show you the bot that I just showed you on Perplexity AI, and I'll try to build something like that for me using CrewAI, right? It seems very achievable. We just need to use some tools. So in this scenario, we use DuckDuckGo search run tool. There are a bunch of different tools available for us to use, which includes YouTube video search tool. And I'm going to be using that to kind of dive into the video and then summarize the video for us. You can see this one is done as well, and it talks about multimodal and generative AI reshaping the future. And then it's talking about it, whatever it found online research wise. So it's very impressive because the framework is very lightweight. It does not require you to use, have like heavy processing power in order to run these models. It's very straightforward that way. It's running locally and it's running fine. So again, you can connect local open source models in order to run this, and I'm more than excited or happy to show you how you could do that. So let me know in the comments if you're interested in learning more about CrewAI. For now, I'm just trying to keep it very simple because I know a lot of you may not be aware of what AI agents are and how it works. But I think this is going to be one of the big things over the next few months or potentially over this year itself, right? So now let me just quickly work with you to build like an agent that will look at YouTube videos and summarize those videos for us. Let me just copy all of this because a lot of this will be reusable, and we will create a new file, YouTube summary crew.py, right? And we'll paste everything that we got from before. See, OpenAI key is reusable, and then task. One thing that I can modularize here is you can see that we are importing CrewAI twice. If I just copy this at the top, and then if I add things like crew and then process here, this will simplify it for me. So I'm just going to keep this very simple here. I don't need DuckDuckGo search run now because I'm going to be using a different tool to search for YouTube videos. Let me show you what that tool is. So by default, CrewAI offers you a bunch of different tools that you can use in order to run your models or in order to achieve specific tasks. So you can see there is the code doc search tool, which will help you refer to your code documentation and find specific details from your documentation. Then there is a CSV search tool that will look inside your CSVs and find certain data points. By reading just two of these, this is a very powerful framework that enables you to do things like look inside files, PDFs, documents, any sort of data to get the data that you're looking for. And also things like YouTube channel search tool, YouTube video search tool. Then there is PDF, MDX, JSON, TXT, GitHub search tool, everything you potentially need. And a lot of what you see here is already implemented on Perplexity AI, which is why you're able to do such cool things on Perplexity AI. It's very underrated front end sort of AI agent. So props to their team for building it so quickly. But open source community is kind of catching up, and we've already reached this point. So yeah, like I said, we're building the YouTube summarizer for us, and we will call this YouTube video search. So basically, this is a tool that we will have to give to our agents so that they are able to look inside of our video and summarize those videos for us. So CrewAI tools, from CrewAI tools, get us this tool. And then we will assign a variable so that it's easier for us. You cannot directly assign function. So this is a function. If you want to assign this function, you have to create something like this. This is called the reference to that function, and then you can use this wherever you want as a reference. So whenever this is run, this will run, right? So that's as simple as that. I'll leave the list to the other tools here just for reference, and I don't need this anymore, or rather I can put the YouTube URL here. So let's say YouTube URL. So if you put the link to the YouTube URL here, it will fetch the video for us. For now, just use this sample link that I have. And then now you can see this is showing an error. This is because we deleted the topic, which was here, and we also deleted the search tool, which was here. By the way, the green thing that you see is commenting it out. Once you comment the code out, you can't run it. So let me just delete the code that's commented, because I'm not going to need that now, and replace the search tool with YouTube video search, which we've implemented here, and replace the topic with the YouTube URL. And now we will call this guy YouTube researcher, right? It's because this guy looks at the YouTube videos and gets the transcript for us. Goal is to look at YouTube videos and get the transcripts and data for those videos for us. Start with and the link to this YouTube video, right? And then verbose is true because we want to see what this guy is doing. And then backstory is that this guy is a creative content writer driven by curiosity or the front end. I'm just going to take whatever inspiration GitHub Copilot gives me. So by the way, GitHub Copilot is an extension to Visual Studio Code that allows you to code faster. So if you don't have it, it's not mandatory. You can see it just kind of gives you suggestion that you can use. Then the tool we will give to this, and let's call this guy YouTube researcher. The tool that we will give to our YouTube researcher is the YouTube video search tool that will take YouTube videos and kind of find the or get the transcript for us. And then we need a writer, right? Again, still we will need the writer who will summarize the video for us. Summarize the transcript received from the YouTube researcher and write a crisp summary for that video. So now this guy will receive something from the YouTube researcher, and then he will take the whatever he's received and summarize the crisp summary for that video. Again, from the backstory standpoint, I don't think it's very important, but just in case, it kind of gives some context to what the agent is doing, right? So everyone needs to have a backstory. UI, the agent here. So again, now that we have our two agents ready, one guy will get the YouTube data, the other guy will summarize or write the data. So let's just call this summarizer rather than calling him writer, right? So there is a summarizer and then there is the researcher. Researcher will get the data, summarizer will summarize the data. Now the task, right? So research task. What will the researcher do? What is the skill of the researcher? Look at the transcript of the YouTube video and look for important points in the video. Focus on keeping an eye out for details that may be important to the audience. Actually, to be honest, like, we don't really need this task for the researcher, because the goal of this research task is to just get the transcript from the YouTube researcher to the writer. But just in case, if there is beyond just transcript, if we get any more data, then we want to also share that with the writer, right? So look for important points in the video and share everything that may be relevant for a good summary. So you can see now we are telling it to look at the transcript of the video and look for any important points in the video and share everything that may be relevant for a good summary. Transcript and other important points from the video, right? So, and tools wise, we need to give this guy YouTube video search tool. And whose skill is this? It's the skill of YouTube researcher. Right? So you can see the errors are now gone. The writer will take the transcript and data and write a insightful summary. Take the transcript or look at the transcript shared by the YouTube researcher and write the summary for the video. This summary should be easy to understand, engaging, and positive. Keep it crisp and to the point. And then finally, we want two para summary of the video formatted. It's weird that AI is giving out wrong spelling. Formatted as markdown, and then the tools that we will give this guy is YouTube search, video search, and then the agent here will be summarizer. So again, for this, we did not necessarily need two agents. Is the reason is you can directly assign the tool to this guy and then give him the power to also look at the YouTube video and then summarize it, right? But for the sake of keeping this very simple, we will have two different agents do this, so we know how the coordination looks like. Now, who are the agents? The first one is the YouTube researcher, the other one is summarizer. These two are the agents, these two are the tasks, and then we want to run it sequentially. Everything else remains the same. And let me just look for one of my recent YouTube videos and use that video, the one that I used for perplexity as well, so we can compare the output. And let me just add the link here. And I think at this point we're ready. Everything we need is in place. All we need to do is first let's clear this and then click on the play button here on the right, top right. You can see this button here, right? Run Python file. You can see it's kind of using the search a YouTube video content tool, and then it's looking for the data. And you can see it got the entire script for me. This is the script from my previous video that kind of talks about how I used Face Fusion to swap my face. And in this video, I'm actually showing how to use Lava, which is an open source model or an open source alternative to GPT-4 Vision. So it's kind of looking at these data pointers and it's summarizing it now. This video is a tutorial on how to use open source multimodal called Lava. The presenter explains that Lava is like GPT-4 visual vision on API and so on and so forth. And then it seems like it's already done this. And it's also looking for other pieces of content. You can see it's looking for music that I had used in the video. So interesting, right? So it's not just looking at the data in the video, but other parameters around the video that may also add value to the user. And it generated the final answer here. So let me see if this, yeah. The video provides a comprehensive tutorial on utilizing open source multimodal model called Lava. The presenter compares Lava to GPT-4, highlighting its impressive visual reasoning, OCR capability, visual conversation, world language for logical reasoning, and so on and so forth. The second half of the tutorial views are guided on how to operate Lava, which is very, very interesting. And the summary itself looks very, very good. Again, it used GPT-4. There is definitely a way for us to use GPT 3.5 for this. But for the sake of simplicity, like in this scenario, even GPT-4 is fine. And overall, if you tell me how this went, the tutorial itself, it's kind of impressive. To be honest, I started using AutoGen Studio for this and I got stuck in bugs and I wasn't able to make all of this work. But CrewAI is so simple and easy to set up, especially if you're comfortable with writing a little bit of code. Now, if you want to, build more agents, all you need to do is, copy these pieces of code, right? And create a new agent here, create a new task for this agent, then mention it here with a comma, right? So you now have three agents who are working in parallel and they have a bunch of different tools already that you can use, right? So you can see you can already do so many things using whatever they have in the platform. So Imagine you have access to your Google Analytics data. You have a data analytics agent. It can take that data and analyze the data, summarize the data for you. It's insane. Like, the possibilities at this point are endless, and I personally love using this. If you guys want to see more tutorial with respect to how this works and how you can, look at use cases like connecting different LLMs, or connecting different things like Google Analytics and so on and so forth with this, let me know. I am excited to try this out, and I'm going to do more about this. I think, in my honest opinion, this adds super value to our course, and I'm going to be continuing to explore more about CrewAI to a point where I think it makes sense to build out like a separate course on this topic, because AI agents in 2024 are going to be huge. There is no doubt about it. People like Sam Altman have already created separate initiatives specifically focused on AI agents, and this is an actual use case that is solving a problem, right? So you've all these one task based machines. So there is a machine that writes code, there is a machine that writes blogs, and so on. Things like these bring all of that together, and I am very excited to try it out. So I hope this video added value to you guys, and this is, I think, one of the latest things you're learning in 2024. So props to you, and I'll see you guys in the next one.